Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for people in the diaspora. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to host you on our second episode of the EzyToks. Last time we had a very exciting session where Solomon, an expert in crop care, in herbicide usage, in crop protection, generally really gave us insightful remarks. So I'll give you a quick introduction of who Solomon is for the new people here today. The last time you left, Solomon, we were calling you the doctor of weeds because you are taking us through how to control your weeds like a pro. So Solomon is trained from Makerere University with a bachelor's degree in crop care. He has also gotten very good certificates from the universities, the State University of Iowa and California University.
It's actually Iowa State University. There's a difference between Iowa State University and then the other one, and it usually causes a friction if you don't say it well for them. Yes,
sure.
it's quite
I
an
understand.
issue.
So Solomon, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, well, dear viewers, good to be back here again with you. My name is Solomon Seruo, as put by my friend Esther here from EzyToks. I'm happy to be here with you on EzyToks again. Let's have a conversation around different aspects in agriculture. And our intent is to learn from each other, from experiences, what you are doing, what we know that works, such that we can be able to, put everything together and make the best out of it.
Sure. So once again, the EzyToks today is brought to you by EzyToks, and in collaboration with Bukoola. Bukoola is committed to making sure that you have a bountiful harvest with a good range of products that they bring your way. And EzyToks is also committed to making sure that you have all your needs from the real start of the season, where you're looking for genuine inputs, advisory, and for markets at the end of the season. So my name is Esther Carrera. I will be the host today with Solomon, the doctor of weeds and pests. So we are very happy to host you once again. Please feel very free to put your questions in the chat. We'll get to them. And could you also please put your expectations in the chat? We need to make sure that whatever we are giving you today is actually the information that you are looking for. So just very quickly, we'll do a quick recap from our previous episode that we did last Friday, how to control your weeds like a pro. We hope a number of you walked away as pros. Personally, I tried out the snail the snail remedy for the beer. Yes. So just very quickly, a quick recap from our conversation last week. Solomon took us through the concepts of understanding the weed. We learned that actually weeds could even be crops that we take as normal food crops, but it is an unwanted crop on your farm. For example, rice growing on your maize farm. Yeah. Rice becomes an unwanted crop. Another exciting thing that we learned is that the most critical time for you to control your weeds is the first third of the crop's cycle.
You got that right.
So that is when you should go in and you make sure that these weeds are actually controlled. Solomon also took us through the different herbicides, the selective herbicides and the non-selective. You told us what it means to have this contact herbicide
and the systemic one.
And that one. So those are some of the things that he took us through. And towards the end of the talk, he told us what could go wrong. Now you already know what herbicides are, the selective, the non-selective, but what could go wrong. So that's why today we are going to talk about how to get the best out of your herbicide. So Solomon, we are going to start it off immediately. And I would like this session to even be more exciting than the last session that we had. Would like to work with the farmer from the real first point of identifying the herbicide to use, to when they're using the herbicide on their farm, up to the point where maybe they need to store this herbicide, whether it will still be effective or not effective. And please feel free to add any other thing like that you think is really needed by the farmer. So starting off, last time you told us that for your herbicide to be effective, it starts with knowing whether it is fake or genuine, because it wouldn't make sense otherwise.
Sure.
So could you tell the farmers, how do we distinguish between a fake herbicide and a genuine herbicide? Is it very easy to identify it physically, or there are other things of knowing that this is a genuine herbicide and the other one is fake?
It's actually tough to tell the difference, because over time, counterfeiters try to mimic, they try to imitate the likeness of the genuine product. And if they do a good job, they will produce something almost exactly, looking exactly like your genuine herbicide. It's like counterfeit money. If whoever is trying to counterfeit money has done a good job, it makes it very hard to tell.
Yeah.
So we speak of security features, tamper-proof evidence, but several times if a counterfeiter is also trying to put this in place, then it becomes very hard. So what we usually recommend is anyone out there who wants to use a herbicide needs to familiarize themselves with the product that they usually use. I'll give an example. So if you are a frequent user of Weedmaster, the top #1 non-selective herbicide on the market, then you must over time appreciate how Weedmaster looks like, as opposed to simply purchasing, tearing things apart, measuring off and using. You must take trouble and see, okay, so how does my Weedmaster look like?
Yeah.
You are taking trouble to understand and appreciate these features for your protection, such that you don't fall prey of counterfeit.
Sure.
So look at, for example, the covering, the shrink wrapping. Look at the cup. Look at the seal that links the cup and the seal itself. Then when you open the cup, what do you get inside? A genuine Weedmaster bottle will have, we call it an induction seal, a seal that covers the top of the bottle, and that induction seal is printed with the logo, the 4-color logos of Bukoola Chemical Industries Limited. So what you usually find as counterfeit out there is when you get the cap off, you either don't find the shrink wrapper, you directly get onto the product inside, or whatever is on top is either a paper covering or some kind of aluminium foil covering on top. So that's one of the unique distinguishing features at the moment. Otherwise, the rest are quite deceptive and have been made in such a way that it is hard for a farmer or a user out there to tell. But that aside, because anyone who is looking to differentiate between counterfeit and genuine simply wants to get a genuine product, just want to be sure that you're not duped.
Right.
So we encourage buyers, users of pesticides, herbicides in particular, for this EzyTok,
yes,
to purchase from only trusted agro input dealers or sources. So, for example, if you are in your local area, you must appreciate who are the dealers in such areas. Who could you trust over time? And trust is built. So over time, you can trust and then be sure to use that product. But that aside, we also have mechanisms to assist farmers who buy pesticide out there. If you're talking about herbicide and then you are not sure whether what you're buying is genuine or counterfeit, we are available and at your disposal for assistance. We have a toll-free line which you can always call and just make an inquiry and say, I'm at this shop. First, we almost know pretty much every shop out there, pretty much every shop. So we have an idea of who would probably be selling counterfeit and things like that. So call us and let us help you.
Sure. And that is why we're also in this partnership, because when you order your herbicide through EzyAgric, at least we know that we are able to trace back to the real supplier where you picked the herbicide from. So very important, as Solomon states, is to know your source. Now, when I was young, there were counterfeit money. I like the fact that you talked about counterfeit money. And they'll tell you that you fold the note and then you throw it down.
Check if it will unfold.
So if it unfolds,
Yeah.
it is genuine.
Yeah.
If it doesn't unfold, it is fake.
Mm.
Is there any technique like that in knowing that this herbicide is genuine or this herbicide is fake? And as you come to that, you talked about the sealing, the foil sealing. Is it for all your products, and how does it look like exactly?
Yeah, it's for all our products, and it's like mentioned, it's paper but printed with full logo, thick paper printed with full color logo, green Bukoola logo.
Okay.
And so that's one of them. But when you get back to the earlier question you asked, is there any other technique like the folding money, things like that? Yes, there is, but it's also a bit technical. It takes someone who is keen. It's what you call product consistency. Bukoola's Weedmaster is one of the, actually is not necessarily one of, but it actually is the highest concentrated glyphosate formulation product on the Ugandan market. We are talking about 50%, as the rest of the other glyphosates range anywhere between 36 to up to about 48%.
So you're at 50%.
So you're at 50% because we want to give you the best. So the consistency of a 50% concentration is a little heavier for those that want to look at viscosity. It's a little bit heavier.
Okay.
And when you shake it up, if you're able to shake it up, it forms bubbles. So the bubbles are slightly big and they don't burst out quick. You see, like they talked about the money that unfolds. So it forms bigger bubbles and they don't burst out quick.
Okay.
Adulterated product, glyphosate adulterated products usually form bubbles, but they are smaller bubbles. And because the bubbles are smaller, they collapse easily.
Okay.
And you don't have that lather-ish kind of appearance in the bottle for long.
Yes.
Yeah. So if someone compares the two, you can easily tell. But again, a quick take home from today's talk is we want to advise users of these products to always avoid cheap, almost excessively low price kind of products, because again, counterfeits are usually presented as that, but also sold. The price tag is really low, and that's what makes many people real quick to
actually take on the fake products.
And we've seen cases where people are comparing. You get to a shop and then someone tells you, I have this Weedmaster, it's 14,000, and I have this Weedmaster, it's 10,000.
It's 10,000.
Of course, the reasonable explanation to that would be that the two probably have a low quality. Be very cautious. Though, of course, even the counterfeiters have learned that people, are getting to know some of these things and they're trying to adjust, selling counterfeit almost full price. But like I mentioned, our lines are open. If you want to just make comparison, call us. We'll let you know it's pretty much impossible for a glyphosate product to be at a certain price in a given market.
Sure. Okay, nice. So again, we are talking about liquid products here, and you have the Weedmaster granular, for example. Do we also find counterfeiting in the granule products or powder products?
Nice one. The granular formulation is hard to counterfeit.
Okay.
Because it's the adulteration requires some sort of input that maybe the bad guys haven't easily, come across. And in fact, one of the reasons we had to introduce the granular formulation is again to be sure that people are able to get an alternative which they can trust.
Right.
So sure, it's not easy finding the Weedmaster granular,
so we
which
should
we call
mainly,
Weedmaster Excel.
So we should mainly be concerned about on the liquid.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So now I'm a farmer. I've bought the herbicide from a trusted source. It's the genuine herbicide, and I get to my home. So I'm either going to apply the herbicide myself, or the older kids. We are not doing child labor here. The older kids are going to apply the herbicide, or maybe the farm manager.
But you talk about older, 6 is older than 5.
No, my friend, I'm talking about 18 and above. So we are talking about application of the herbicide. And we normally ignore a couple of things, especially like protective gear and how do I apply this herbicide. Could you just tell us about the protective, that first step of getting into applying the herbicide?
I like the sequencing of questions because that's exactly what is supposed to happen even when you're getting the herbicide. So you don't think about what to put on when you are getting to apply the product.
Yeah.
You think about it when you are about to mix the product. And we've made it very easy. You see, like traffic lights, they are colors, patterns of colors that are used in pesticides, crop protection products, to inform users out there how dangerous the product can be. So we have red, we have yellow, we have blue, and we have green. If you, simple language, if you look at a product, there's a label, pesticide label. This pesticide label has about 3 panels.
Same thing for herbicide?
Yes, pretty much all pesticide products. So about 3 panels. You have the front panel, you have the 2 side panels, one on the left and another on the right. So the front panel contains the name of the product, the active ingredient, the formulator or the distributor or the manufacturer, and several times their contact, the net content, the manufacturer and expiry date usually, but it also at the bottom has a bar that runs across the front panel. That bar is either red, yellow, blue, or green. It's called a toxicity band.
Do you think people actually notice those bars?
Well, but they must.
They are supposed to.
Yes, and those that are attending our talk today, I think that's one of the things that we need to be very careful about. So the red one, take it to be the most dangerous, the most toxic. In fact, in the Ugandan context, we don't register products with the red toxicity band. If you find it on the market, then just know it's for specialized use, and you cannot just buy it off the shelf and then go and use.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So the red is the most toxic, followed by yellow, followed by the blue, and then the green is considered relatively safe if used according to label instructions.
Okay.
So that band has, some people call them cartoons, but we call them pictograms.
Okay.
So those pictograms have 2 sides. There's the right and then there's the left. But in the middle of the pictogram is a signal word, whether it's toxic, caution, danger, or things like that. Okay. And sometimes the red ones will have a skull and 2 crossbones. Okay. And then the others will have a caution triangle and then other signal words. So on this other side, they instruct you on what to do or what to put on when you are mixing. So you'll see a small pictogram with a hand kind of pouring something.
Okay.
So that simply tells you when you are mixing this product, then do put on the pictograms that come after that pouring hand tell you what you must put on.
Okay.
So if you see gloves, you must put on gloves.
Okay.
If you see gumboots, you must put on gumboots. If you see a face shield, you must put on a face shield. So at the end of that line is usually a small box with almost a small child trying to reach out
to pick the
exactly. Yes. And it has a lock.
Yes.
So after mixing, put under lock and key such that children do not access.
Sure.
And so when you're done doing all that, that means when you mix, you must store. You don't mix and leave everything there. Okay. Because when you leave, anything can happen. Someone can kick it over and spews and contaminates the environment. So you must get back to the middle of the toxicity band, and I'll read the other side. Usually starts with a man spraying. So it means when you are going to spray this product, then do put on, then it follows with the rest of the protective equipment that you need to put on.
Okay.
And so the question usually that is asked is, how do I know which PPE to use?
Exactly.
You find it on the
exactly. Actually, that was going to be my follow-up question. Is there some mandatory protective gear?
Yeah.
And then is there that specific protective gear that you have to put on, as you explained?
Good one. So what is on the toxicity band, or what we call toxicological band, is the minimum or bare minimum protection that you need. If you feel free to put on any much more than that, but the bare minimum is, if you must put on a mask, then do put on
A mask.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very interesting. I think that takes us to the next level. I think you talked a little bit about if you're going to mix, it should show you what you're supposed to wear. Honestly, we've taken these things lightly. I am very sure a couple of farmers have taken these things lightly. Is there like an immediate effect? Just quickly, is there an immediate effect, or sometimes when you don't actually follow these instructions, there's like a long-term effect?
Sure. So such effects you're talking about are divided into two. There's what we call acute toxicity and then chronic toxicity. So the acute toxicity is what you pretty much get after getting contaminated with the pesticide. Either you have inhaled the pesticide, or it has gotten through your gastrointestinal tract, or it is getting on the skin, or it's getting into your eyes.
Right.
So some people get headaches. Some
okay.
people, the skins react, and maybe
that's the immediate effect.
That's the immediate.
Yeah.
And that's the one that comes just right after getting it, the acute.
Right.
So the chronic is what comes in long term.
Right.
And of course, those would be examples of disruption in reproductive systems and several other body organs, including in very rare cases, cancers. Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I think some of these instructions are really easy to follow. Let's make sure that we are keen on looking at the bottles of herbicides, pesticides, and insecticides that we are buying, and use the protective gears that are mentioned according to what Solomon was just explaining. Now, let's talk about the mixing. And I think I've seen a couple of questions coming through. We'll attend to those shortly. I'll tell you a story. I always like talking to farmers and getting the experience. So one day, a farmer bought a selective herbicide from us. So it was a trusted source and it was a genuine herbicide. So he bought this herbicide, and on mixing, there was something about he either first put in the herbicide and then put in the water and didn't mix well. Ended up spraying the water. So he can say, you guys, I always buy good herbicide from you, but this one didn't work. Now, another one just mixed with any water. I don't know whether it was dirty or something, but according to the experts that tried to walk them through the process, there was something about mixing with water. There was something about what do you start with when you're putting in your spray pump. Do you first put in the herbicide, or do you first put in the water? And does that actually, does it affect the effectiveness of the herbicide?
A good one. So the effectiveness of the herbicide is affected from the point of purchase. Now, away from that, because we've had a thorough discussion about the quality, genuine or not genuine, and whether you're selecting the right one, then at the point of mixing,
we're actually now talking about
the point of mixing.
Pump.
Yes, very critical. So a few things that we must really take care of. For example, looking at the first scenario of a farmer that poured the herbicide into the sprayer and then added water and then didn't mix well. So conventionally, when we are mixing herbicides, especially soluble liquid herbicides, that means ones that almost look like water. They could have a color, but almost like water. We must first put a bit of water into the knapsack sprayer, like a quarter of the knapsack sprayer.
Okay.
And if you're talking about a quarter, that means if you have a 20-liter knapsack sprayer, about 5 liters must first go into the sprayer before you introduce the herbicide.
Okay.
So you must get the water inside first. Then you measure off the required amount. And at the measuring stage, you must be sure that you're measuring the required dose, the mixing dose or rate that must go in. We talked about that. So if you're supposed to use 200 and you use 100, it won't be effective because 200 and 100 are totally different.
Right.
So you must be sure. And therefore, you must use a measuring cup. There are cases where people have called in asking, can I use the lid or the cap of the bottle?
Yeah.
And we usually say, look, we can't be certain the capacity of the lid. So be sure to use a measuring cup. And now we've, out of wanting to help and be sure that people have the best of, the product that they purchased from us, sometimes included measuring cups on some of these products. But also, if you get a cup, you must keep a measuring cup, you must keep it, because it's a tool.
Right.
So use a measuring cup which is calibrated,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes we call it graduated.
Mm-hmm.
So it has different levels of which volume.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you're measuring, you also must, there's what we call the meniscus. Now, that is another totally different language, but the meniscus is, you see, if you put a liquid into a cup, it sometimes will form some kind of curve on top of the level.
Mm-hmm.
So the graduation of the measuring cup should cut not at the top of that meniscus or that curve, but pretty much towards the bottom of the curve. As the corners level off, then it raises up to meet that particular level.
Okay.
And then don't be shaky, because if you're shaky, you could pour, and then you'll be contaminated. Yes. So don't be too shaky, and also be at a level. You see, you can't look into a measuring cup and say, I think it has reached the level where I want.
Right.
We can't put it this. We've seen people measure like this.
Yeah.
No, it's at a level. And several times, if you can, we say put at a stable base, pour, and then observe, and then you can introduce. Now, when you introduce, you must stir first. You must mix within the knapsack. We don't encourage using sticks, because they break off sometimes, unless someone has one which they're very sure can't break off.
Okay.
But at about a quarter capacity filled with water and now the herbicide, you can easily swirl or shake the knapsack sprayer, and you have it mixed thoroughly.
Right.
Then you can put a little more water, mix, and then put more, fill up. And if you must use an adjuvant or a spreader at that moment, like a golden drop, then you introduce it last, and then you're good to go.
Okay, interesting. Break it down again, step by step. First, put in water. Okay. So, number one,
quarter fill with water. Measure the required amount of the herbicide.
Yes.
Introduce it to the sprayer through the sprayer sieve.
Okay.
Okay. So if every sprayer has a sieve, some people take it off and then just introduce. But sometimes we'd want it to go through the sieve, just to be sure we are pretty much cutting out everything.
Right.
In fact, even with the water, you must introduce through the sieve.
Through the sieve.
And then some people put some, all sorts of sieves on, for example, nets.
Yes.
Mosquito nets. Others put cloths because they feel they must filter dirty water. No, because if you pour then the herbicide through that, it's going to retain some of it.
Right.
So fill, mix up. Put an adjuvant like golden drop if you must, and we recommend because it's rain season, and therefore you could have just sprayed and then it's washed off, and then you're good to go. You're good to
very interesting. So let's not start with the herbicide. Start with some water. Introduce the herbicide, then you mix properly, add in some water, and then you put the spreader.
Yes.
Interesting. So there was the other question for someone who mixed with dirty water, and now you also introduced the bringing in the sieves, the local sieves.
But now we can give it an in-depth understanding for our viewers.
Right.
Dirty water, irrespective of what is making it dirty, has a negative effect on the herbicide efficiency.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So what usually makes water dirty is organic matter. So you either find clay, or you find some other sort of organic substances, depending on where you're collecting the water. So these substances, organic, clay, or whatever, have a negative effect of absorbing or having the herbicide adsorb to the surfaces of it. Because if you look at organic matter, it's negatively charged, so you have such issues.
Yes.
And so as you introduce it into the sprayer, it's capturing and making prisoner the herbicide the active that you're trying to spray. So the right away disadvantage is you may have the organic particles block your nozzles, and when you spray the herbicide out, as you expect that the herbicide will leave the water phase and get into the leaf tissue, this organic matter will not get into the leaf.
Yes.
It stays on the
yes,
surface of the leaf and
yes.
retains the chemical and will not release it to go
Right,
into.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing, so that's it. No, we don't want to use dirty water because
Right.
it will affect. But
Right.
the other is again the salinity of the water.
Yes.
If water contains active ions that could create some kind of saline water. Looking at things like borehole water, not very good for using in herbicide application.
Yeah.
But also some water treated with chemicals that are still active. For example, those that are heavily treated with the chlorine also may have a negative effect on the herbicide performance. So the recommended, because
yes,
also
that's why I was coming.
they must be waiting for.
Yes.
So what do we use? You're telling us we can't use everything. So rainwater would be the best.
Rainwater.
Yes.
Okay.
If you can't get rainwater, spring water is good. Or sometimes we have wells that tend to settle. And then you have all the clay settled, and then you can get off, the clean water. But the mud kind of water is not recommended.
Interesting. So I hope our audience is following very closely. I'm just checking to see some of the questions. Please bring in your questions. Solomon is here today to answer any questions that you might have around how you can get the best out of your herbicide. So we'll just answer one question very quickly so that we can go on. There's someone asking, hello, John here. When I mix 2,4-D with your glyphosate, I think Weedmaster, I tend to achieve maximum effectiveness than when I use glyphosate alone. Is it advisable? What are the rates in the mixture?
Good one, John. First and foremost, and again, a quick guidance, when we talk about using two pesticides in a single container, we usually call it tank mixing, which is acceptable, but the two must be compatible. And also the compatibility depends on how well what you're introducing first. And we talked about that. So as we talk now, we may ask that people use a combination of, for example, 2,4-D and the Weedmaster, and again, it's a mess. So if you must use the two, you of course must have water into the sprayer. Yes. If you introduced Weedmaster in a sprayer without water and you pushed 2,4-D in the same sprayer, they will coagulate. They will react.
Okay.
And that's why you need to have the water there first, and then you introduce the others. So, but talking about the results that he gets while he has mixed the two, it's logical because we usually get a combination of of weeds in the same place, mixed populations. So you have the broadleaf weeds, and then you have the annual, the perennial grass weeds. And I think we talked about that types of weeds in the previous
episode.
Yes, EzyToks. So when you combine the Weedmaster with glyphosate with the 2,4-D, you definitely have everything cleared. Whether you're having broadleaf or you have grasses, everything is gone. Now, 2,4-D almost acts like a hormone. So it's more penetrative than maybe the glyphosate in that sense.
Yes.
And so if you combine the two, that means you're going to have easy penetration of the two, and you have a better kill. But it only makes sense to mix or to have 2,4-D in the combination if you have mixed populations. If you have only grasses, the 2,4-D probably won't.
It will be wasted.
Yeah, it won't be of any assistance because it has no effect on them.
Because I would think that's something that maybe John figured out. Like, so is there a way we can make Weedmaster more effective, or we should actually look at mixing with 2,4-D if you have a mixed population of weeds, as you just said? We
heavily recommend that for you to have, because we are again looking at how to get the most out of your herbicide.
Yes.
So if you want to get the most out of it, and you have mixed populations, both broadleaf and grass weeds, have a combination of the Weedmaster and 2,4-D to give you the best results.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, all this information you can also get on our app. Now, this time when we are talking about the effectiveness of your herbicide, when you go to the agri-shop, last time we demonstrated to you how to get to the agri-shop. We'll still play for you that video towards the end of this session. When you go to agri-shop and you select Weedmaster, you see a description of how to use Weedmaster, what rates you should be looking at. And I think even this that you have just talked about, Solomon, is something very key for us to add, to know that maybe first put in water, then introduce the herbicide, add water and the spreader. Very good. So please feel free to keep sending through your questions. Thank you for your question, John. For others will also be attending too. Now, my next question. Today it rained very heavily in Kampala. And now we are talking about a rainy season. And it's the season when people start planting, clearing their fields, and so forth. I'll go back to my farmer stories. Now, someone called me the other day in Luganda, but I won't say it in Luganda. Yeah. But he called me and he's like, Madam, I have just sprayed my watermelon. I sprayed my watermelon at 7. I think it was like around 7:30 a.m. Now, yeah, Kati, it's like 8:30 and it rained. Should I spray again? Does it mean that all my herbicide is gone? Should I spray again? And if I spray again, do I have to use the same amount that I used before? Could you tell us about the effectiveness of herbicides and this weather that we have
now? Yes, it's quite a challenge, especially around the time when we have to clear our gardens and it's raining.
Yes.
And it's true that rain affects the effectiveness of a herbicide or pretty much any crop protection product. But that happens if it rains within a period not later than 3 hours from application.
Okay.
Because within a period of 3 hours, if it rains, for example, in an hour's time, the herbicide has not had sufficient time to get into the tissues.
In an hour's time.
Yes. So you still have much of it at the surface. And when it rains, it washes the herbicide off the leaf.
Completely or?
Depends on the intensity. You could actually have a greater percentage of it washed away.
Wow.
And of course, several disadvantages, including getting the washed off herbicide getting into the soil and contaminating the soil and probably affecting soil microorganisms. Or sometimes if it's water that flows away in a form of erosion, contaminating waterways and water sources for communities. So your herbicide must be sprayed, and 3 hours straight we shouldn't have rain. Now, a few herbicides are currently being formulated to withstand that negative effect of rain. And the attribute that is being introduced is called rain fastness. So the herbicide is sprayed, but even if it rained pretty much about an hour or two, the effect will be less.
Yeah, because we can't control rain, right?
But this is the good news. Because all these negative effects are known, and over time we have seen this happen, we have introduced a product that imparts the rain fastness property for whichever product you need to spray. And that is what we call the golden drop.
Is that why you chose the name?
It is golden indeed, because the performance and the science behind it is amazing. So what the golden drop does is every sprayer of capacity 20 liters requires only 5 mils, very small quantities. And the power it has is that it will, one, increase the spreading capacity of the herbicide of the spray mixture onto the leaf surfaces. So that means a single drop going out onto a leaf will cover a much bigger surface.
Right.
So when the drop gets onto the leaf, it spreads out. It ceases to be a drop. If it remains a drop on the leaf, it has weight. And that weight, if the leaf shakes left, right, it will fall off. And then you lose that. So that means you need fewer drops to spread onto the entire leaf. That already means that you probably also need little herbicide to actually cover a much bigger area. But what is even more interesting is that it increases the rate at which the herbicide penetrates into the tissues. And it also introduces the rain fastness. And therefore, you don't have much worry if during spraying, you used golden drop.
So golden drop is the magic herbicide, what do they call it? Spreader? Magic spreader that you should have across the whole season.
Sure.
Whether for your herbicide, for your pesticides.
Whichever.
Because sometimes you can also spray the pesticide and it rains, right? And I like how you explain that the drop, I literally see the drop on the leaf. When it's heavy, it could easily follow. Very interesting. So now, maybe last time we might have hinted a little bit on the right timing to do your spraying. I'm not so sure, but let's repeat it, at least for the audience, whether the new people or people that were here with us, and emphasize when is the right time to spray. Is it in the morning, in the evening? When is the right time?
So talking about time of day, the most appropriate time is the time when you don't have dew on the leaves, because dew has a diluting effect on the herbicide. Several times the thought is it's only dew and this is too much, so how is it going to dilute? And we forget that the sprayer gets out droplets.
Yes.
And these droplets join with droplets of dew. It's like pouring the mixed 20 liters of the herbicide into 20 liters of water. So that means if you had put 200 mils in 20 liters, you have actually effective 100 mils in 20 liters. You understand?
Yes.
So you dilute.
Yes.
So when there is no dew and when it is not too hot.
Okay.
Now, while we usually don't want to spray when it is too hot, we didn't get into that, but probably we'll get an opportunity later during the EzyToks.
Yeah.
One of the effects, one of the things that affect the performance of a herbicide is the inability of the herbicide to reach the target. And when you spray when it is too hot, remember the droplets are getting out of the sprayer. These droplets can easily evaporate. The heat can easily get them evaporated.
Right,
and therefore, you're getting little reaching. And what happens is during the really hot weather, also the human skin is expanding. And that expansion and the heat also enhances the ability of skin to absorb different substances. So for your safety, you don't want to spray when it's too hot, because
hot,
your skin can easily get in different kinds of stuff.
Right.
So when it is not too hot, when it's too hot, we don't spray. When there is dew, we don't spray. And then when it is windy, we also do not spray. The risk is you'll have drift to off-target areas. And again, not much of it may reach where you actually want it. And then lastly, of course, we do not spray when it's raining or when it's about to rain. And maybe lastly is you don't spray when you can't see. You don't spray in the dark. Yes, you don't spray at night.
You spray on the wrong target, right?
Yes.
So when we are talking about the time to spray, let there be no dew. It shouldn't be very hot. It shouldn't be windy. Shouldn't be about to rain. And don't spray in the dark. That one should be like very obvious, right? So if we are to
it's not obvious. I remember the cases of the fall armyworm where farmers were waking up in the wee hours of the night
to go and
spray because they were told the thing is nocturnal, so it feeds in the night. So they wanted to target it.
So that wasn't true?
Not really.
Okay. So now when we take it home, making it very simple for the farmer, we're talking about maybe mid-morning, evening, where there is no dew, it's not too hot, it's not dark, it's not about to rain, and it's not very windy. Very interesting. So I want to go just very quickly to another question so that you can answer it. For those who joined late, it's totally okay. We can still answer the questions. Feel free to even ask any question about how to make your herbicide very effective. One reminder, remember the perfect time to use a herbicide is a third of the plant's cycle.
Actually, to put it within, I mean, give it a bit of context. When the weeds exceed, when they remain in your garden a period beyond a third of the life cycle of your crop, then the yield begins to decline
immediately,
every single day. But we're not saying, look, wait for a third, then you go in and apply.
Yes.
It also
within,
depends on
yes.
the conditions,
Yes.
which herbicide you need to apply. Because if you're looking at pre-emergence herbicides, you don't have to wait for their third.
Right.
And also putting into consideration that the weeds not only affect yield, they also have other detrimental effects.
Yes,
including harboring insect pests,
exactly,
including being a reservoir of some diseases, making mechanization or working in the garden quite difficult. So getting to control your weed, at least not exceeding a period, a third of the cycle of the plant. And then ensure that if you're going to use a herbicide to control weeds in a crop that is already growing, that means you're using a selective herbicide, be sure to control the herbicide, the weeds when they are about 2 to 3 true leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, they're what to call true leaves, and then the weeds, I mean the leaves that come out of the, the germination process.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So about 2 to 3 leaves. That is when the herbicide is most effective.
Sure.
Most effective. You can control even after, but most effective is at that stage.
I picked so much even from the other conversation. That's why it's very important to keep following it, because things keep coming back, and you had hinted on this as well. Weeds that are outgrown, and then weeds that are hairy.
Yes,
so could you just talk about that once again, and looking at it from the perspective of how effective can our herbicides be?
Okay.
So weeds that are really grown and are hairy.
Okay. So we're talking about then the physical aspects and
yes.
the physiological aspects of the weeds, and how those get into affecting the effectiveness of the herbicide.
You should have become a doctor. Go on.
So the weeds that are overgrown, and including the weeds that are stressed, either water stressed or heat stressed or whatever,
yes.
do not really conduct as much in the systems, herbicides and several other things that happen there within, to take it to wherever it has to go to be able to deliver. And that affects how effective the herbicide would be. That's why we do not recommend applying herbicide to overgrown weeds.
Yes.
Because one, it's hard to get as much of the weed get the herbicide.
Right.
Two,
right.
It is also hard to deliver as much as what is needed. Three, at that stage, it's pretty much hard to get the kill that you want, because there isn't too much activity happening. Active growth is what gives us the best effectiveness. So for overgrown weeds, we recommend you slash back a little bit, have them sprout. At that stage, when the activity is too high, that's the best time. The
perfect time to spray.
And now, when we get up to the physical aspects of the weeds, the leaves, we'll look at the hairiness of a leaf. And we say those small hairs have the ability of holding above the droplet, the spread droplet, and it is hard for it to reach the actual tissues.
Right.
And if you are in such a situation, usually grasses, you must include the golden drop, because the golden drop will reduce the surface tension forces that are actually keeping this droplet as a drop, and then have it just spread. So it will just pour within the hairs.
Yes, please. Fine, thank you.
But also the pressure, the pressure of the skin. Sometimes you have too much pressure, and this droplet is coming out so fast that it will hit way beyond
That has been there
for that could also help.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And then that gets us slightly into the issue of nozzles. But I think allow me talk about that later. Maybe we'll give it out as a take home as we finish.
Because
and then the last one on the weed physiology, physical characteristics, and etc. is the waxy layer on the leaf. If you look at weeds like wandering Jew, actually waxy on the surface. That is something that helps them survive the tough conditions when it is too hot, because the waxy layer reflects excessive heat that reduces the rate of transpiration, and then it is able to retain water. But the negative effect is the waxy. You see, wax or any fat, lipid or etc. are not water loving.
Yeah, they're not.
So they can't mix.
Yeah.
So you're spraying this herbicide in a water phase, getting into a waxy surface. The liquid will actually not stay on the leaf. You spray and it will fall off. And therefore, the truth is, you may actually be as if you actually never sprayed, because nothing was retained.
Yes.
So in that case, we again recommend that you include golden drop because it is a super spreader. It will
So just
prevent
return
this
the
droplet
bag.
from just remaining on top and then flowing off, but just ensure that it covers the leaf. So those are some of the key aspects about the weed characteristics that are very important for our people to really appreciate.
Right. It's always very nice speaking to you, Solomon, and the magic that we are getting from this talk today, the golden drop, the golden drop, I think really if it's going to improve on our effectiveness, then we should be looking out for it. So we have a few minutes left to the top of the hour. For those who joined late, just allow me look for the questions that have been sent through. So for those who joined late, our WhatsApp number has been added in the chat. You can reach out to us. We'll be able to share with you this information from the very start of the session. So let me just go to the questions, right? And then you can also give us another akatarikeka.
There'll be one more.
Apart from the golden drop, I really liked the drunk snails. So you give us another akatarikeka. Now, I think we had answered John's question, but he has another question of the granular and the liquid weed master. Do they achieve the same effectiveness?
Yes, they do. The only challenge, well, not really a challenge, but what we need to know is that the granular one penetrates a lot faster. The nature of the formulation penetrates a lot faster. So that means it is even more applicable in a little drier circumstances or areas. Because look, the herbicide only gets to get into the leaf when, again, it is in a water phase. Okay, so if you apply it, it must still be in a water phase for it to be able to get into mostly. So the granular one, because it gets into the tissue real quick. So even when it is too hot, because when it is too hot, immediately you spray, it dries.
Nice.
So that means the granular one in that circumstance can easily penetrate real quick. So even as it dries, much of it has already gotten in. So as you get into the night where again a little bit of dew gets onto the leaf, remember the water you used has now evaporated. So now the dew is coming back again to give you a little bit of solution to even get better penetration during the night.
Interesting. So I've been wondering, why do the people of Kayunga buy more granular weed master? And then when you go to Masaka, it's liquid. Honestly, some of those things you don't understand why. So it comes back to the heat. Very nice. So someone is also asking, how far have you gone with the registration of 2,4-D? Yeah,
a good one. So the registration of 2,4-D is actually pretty much done. The requirement is that you have this product go through what we call field efficacy trials, national field efficacy trials, which must happen in 3 agroecological zones for 3 different seasons. This product was submitted for registration a couple of years back, but a few mix up here and there have delayed the actual passing or clearance in terms of registration, but it's pretty much done. You know, 2,4-D is one of those products that has been on the market for a long time. And the issue of registration is basically for legislation purposes. But in terms of performance, be assured you've got a good product.
Nice. I'll be very quick. Now we have another one from Maurice. He's asking, I have always received complaints from farmers, and when they use the lower limit of the herbicide application rate, the weeds do not die. And when they use the upper limit, the crops and the weeds all get burnt. What would you recommend in this case to be the best application rate?
That's a very tough one and very practical. You see, why we give both a lower and an upper limit is because when you buy a herbicide, you are not simply supposed to get it mixed and go and spray in the field. No, you're supposed to do what they call calibration. You see, you could use 140 mils per 20 liters. For the same herbicide, I may not have to use 140. You know why? Because maybe we walk at different paces. Maybe I walk faster, that in the same area where you have sprayed 2 mils of the mixture, I have sprayed 3. And therefore, if I spray 3 mils in terms of volume, which is higher, I may need a slightly lower concentration because the 3 contains even a lot more. So it is very possible that 2 different people may use the same herbicide, same mixing rates, but achieve slightly different results. The other thing is that the ranges are also meant for different stages of the weed or the crop. So you also need to take care of that. You may use an upper limit for weeds that still overgrown and still not do it well. Or you may use a lower limit for weeds that are way mature and you still can't get the same results. I'll give a quick example. If you look at Weedmaster, the application rate for annual weeds, soft annual weeds is 100 to 150 mils. And then for the perennial weeds, grasses, etc. are 200. You can go up to 250 depending again on how you calibrated your sprayer. So you cannot use 100 mils for weeds that require 200. So there's a bit of gimmicks and dynamics in and out of that. And I think this calls for even more interaction and such more EzyToks for us to, you know, appreciate some of the these things.
Okay, because this is very interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's a practical.
Yeah.
But how many people out there actually calibrate their sprayers? You get a sprayer, you get into the garden and spray. You get into the garden, you buy a sprayer, you get a nozzle, it's supposed to be spraying insecticides, you're spraying a herbicide and you use the one that is supposed to spray insecticides.
We need to do this calibration thing. If we can even share it on our media pages, on Farm Manager as soon as possible, because guys are doing it right now. They're spraying right now, like this is the right timing. So it feels like this person is actually either wasting the money or is losing out more. Yeah. So
they're not getting the most out of their herbicide.
They're not exactly, and that's why we are here. So the last question I think I have here is, can herbicides be mixed with pesticides to form one solution and then applied to the plants? I think you had talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah, quite a bit, but we can give it a quick revisit.
Yes.
You see, a herbicide is also a pesticide.
Okay, that's why you keep saying pesticide. And I'm like,
so a herbicide is a pesticide. Pesticides are substances, mixture of substances or whatever that kill pests. And a pest is anything that deters and, you know, makes it difficult and annoys and etc. a crop or even a human being. So anything that kills a pest is a pesticide. Side is in relation to killing or getting rid of or deterring or etc. So pesticide. That's why if it kills a herb, which is a plant, which is a weed, it's called a herbicide. If it kills an insect, it's called an insecticide. If it deals with bacteria, then talking about bactericide. But now we'll talk about fungicide, viricides, and so many others. But now we are talking about whether you can mix a herbicide with maybe an insecticide, maybe, because that's one of the possible mixtures. So yes, you can. Let's see a scenario where you have termites, terrestrial termites that are disturbing your maize, and you want to deter them from doing so. And you're at a stage where you are clearing weeds in maize and using metrazine. You can clearly have metrazine mixed with ramida, and then you apply. So you deal with the weeds and then you deal with the termites. Or still, you could still use Weedmaster, for example, with ant killer for the same purpose, and then you've got good results.
Nice, interesting. It actually becomes cost effective.
Absolutely.
If it is
in terms
applicable.
of application costs.
Yes.
But what we need to know is that there's an order to which we must follow to again have the effectiveness. Because if you have a powdered pesticide, and then you have a liquid pesticide and a suspension concentrate, now those are pesticide formulations. There is one that must go in first before you get another into. It's like, that's a funny example, but if you have a relatively big person or big people and then smaller people, for you to better utilize specific spaces, you must get probably the bigger people in first, and then you fix in the small people because you can find room for them.
Very interesting. So Solomon, I think we can never finish such discussions, and that's why every Friday we're going to be seated here telling you about the right ways to use your crop protection products, crop nutrition, how you can farm in a smart way, or what we call how you can farm in the easy way. So thank you so much once again, Solomon. Do you have a katalekeka?
Yes, the katalekeka was actually a simple one. It is in regard to nozzles. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there watching us, you have probably bought an knapsack sprayer before, and you have noticed it comes with different nozzle heads. Basically what we call nozzles or nozzle heads. Yes. Each of those nozzle heads, some people think it's spare. It is not spare. each of those has a specific function. In fact, you may even sometimes find the same that look similar, but have different colors. They also have a different function. So there's a specific nozzle for applying herbicides. There's a specific nozzle for applying insecticides, for applying fertilizers and insecticides. So please take very keen note and ensure that you're using the right nozzle.
Awesome. So I always don't want to leave questions for farmers. Just one last one, right?
Please go ahead.
One last one. And I hope people will be patient with us. Just one last one. There's someone who asked whether butanil can be used as both pre-emergency and post-emergency.
Which
butanil 70?
Yes, sure. Butanil 70 is both pre and post-emergency herbicide, especially for weed control in rice. However, the butanil S is only pre-emergency and can be used pretty much for any crop.
Right. Now, Akatane Keka from myself.
Sure.
Do not miss out the big September deal. We have a huge deal for you for all the products that Solomon has been talking about, season relevant products. The golden drop is not missing on the September deal. So you can check out our application. We're going to share with you just shortly on the screens so that you can see what are we offering. So just go to the app, order for your item. You see the hot deals for September. We're currently doing a free delivery in Kampala. We've given you a good discount, but this is not the other very low price because we are at the right source.
It's discount and it's mentioned. It's discount.
It's discount,
yes.
Exactly. So we have given you a discount just because of the collaboration that we have with Bukoola, and we are still here to make sure that you farm the easy way or you farm the right way. So every Friday, once again, we'll be here. Please send through your queries, send through your expectations, and don't miss the big September deal. It's running for the next, I think we're remaining with about 7 days or so. So you still have some time. Free deliveries. You never know, you could find a calibrated cup or you could find any freebie. Thank you so much. It was very nice having you today. Don't forget to download the app and feel free to get in touch with us. Very nice having you once again, Solomon.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you all. Thank you.